Hi everyone, it's Karen here from www.gethookedupcrochet.com. Otherwise, you know me on social media as @hookedupcrochet. Today, we're going to be making the Imposter beanie. I am so excited to release this pattern. It's something I've been working on for a while now, and as you guys know, I can't knit, but I really love the way knitted hats look, so I thought it would be fun to design a beanie that mimicked knitting stitches. So that's where I got the name Imposter, because it looks knitted, but it's not, it's all crochet. So let's gather our materials and get started. In this tutorial, we will be using size 5 bulky weight yarn. I'm using Color Made Easy from Lion brand. It has 247 yards per skein, which is an incredible deal for the price, but overall total, you need less than 200 yards. So one skein of this is plenty, but if you want to substitute any other size 5 bulky weight yarn, that is definitely okay. You will also need stitch marker, scissors, size L crochet hook, measuring tape, and a yarn needle. I don't have my yarn needle out because I don't get it out until I need it, so I don't lose it. And as you see here, I have another crochet hook out because a lot of my testers found it was easier to go down a hook size to create the band of the hat and then go back up to the L to do the body. If you can't match my gauge, that's okay. As you guys know, I give measurements, so we will be able to work based off of those. So let's get started. I'm going to try and keep my yarn barf out of frame, but go ahead with your hook and your yarn. You're going to make a slip knot. And now we are going to chain 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And now we are going to slip stitch from the second chain from the hook all the way across, chain 1 and turn. For this tutorial, we will be making a slip stitch style band, and for those, I usually do about 18 inches for an adult. But with all of my patterns, when we're working the band, if you don't feel comfortable doing a slip stitch style band, you can substitute a single crochet in the front loop only. I would just go an inch further in your length of your band, because with the slip stitch style, they are very stretchy. But whenever you do a single crochet or a half double crochet style band, I don't feel they are as stretchy. So you want to give an extra inch for fit, for proper fit. I am a really big fan of this style band. It takes a little bit longer to do. I will admit that it's taken me some time to get comfortable with it, but I really love using this style band for this hat because it really shows off the knitted look. So, as you can see, there's my chain, and I'm going to slip stitch across. And when you get to the end, don't worry about your tail for now. You're going to chain 1 and turn. And now for the rest of the way, for doing this band, you chain 1, turn, slip stitch in the front loop only, so this loop right here, all the way across, chain 1 and turn. Like I said, this band does take a little bit extra time to do, but the payoff is so worth it because it is a beautiful stretchy band, and you know we love some stretchy bands here, especially me because I have a big head. So chain 1 and I turned. And as you guys know, I am still not completely comfortable crocheting on camera, so I am a little shaky, but bear with me. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and here's my last one right here. 7, chain 1, turn. Now normally when I'm sitting in my craft room in my favorite spot crocheting, I can usually get a slip stitch style band in adult size done in about 15 minutes with no breaks. I apologize for the fat puggle that is snoring in this tutorial. He will stop soon. And you want to work loosely. You don't want to work too tight because it's harder to get your hook in there to do the slip stitch. So you want to use a looser tension. And for me, I kind of exaggerate the movement. I can't do it here on camera, but think of like a chicken wing with your right hand going up, kind of like you're flapping. If you do that and exaggerate the movement, it keeps it nice and loose. So I'm just going to be working on my band here. I'm going to do one more row and show you what it should look like. See, and as you can see, I did that last stitch a little too tightly. So I'm going to insert my hook, slip stitch, and as you can see, it gives this nice ribbing. It looks really beautiful. So I'm going to keep on working. If you want to pause the video here, when we come back, I'll have my slip stitch band all the way done and I'll show you how to join it. Okay, so as you can see here, I've got 18 inches for my slip stitch style band, and I want to show you something. You want to end here and then have your little tail at the opposite end, and I will show you why. Because when we make these two ends meet, we will be able to camouflage that little tail. So by bringing both ends together, we are going to chain one and now slip stitch both ends together. So we're going to be going through both loops to join the band, and that little tail will be hidden. It will be camouflaged throughout the body of the hat. So I already did my chain one, and now I'm going to slip stitch through both stitches on both ends of the band. So there's my first one. There's one, two, three, four, here's number 5, number 6, and my last one. If I can get it through there. Number 7. And there's that little tail. We will camouflage that here shortly. There you go. Now your band is complete. You're going to turn it right side out. Don't worry about that little tail. We will camouflage it here shortly, because our next step will be to chain one and single crochet around the top of the band. All right, so now we're at the back, and you're going to chain one and single crochet around the top of your band, spacing your stitches out evenly. Now, a lot of people place them right on top, but you can actually work into the band. I think it blends better. So I go down just a little bit into my band, and as you can see here, I'm going to do one. I'm going to show you. So if you do it around the top, it kind of just sits there on top, and I don't like the way it looks. You see how it has that? So I'm going to go back. Actually, here, let me undo this. This is just my personal preference. I think it blends better into the band if you go down just a little bit. And now I'm just going to speed this up, because we are just evenly spacing our single crochets. There's not a specific stitch count for this. You just want to evenly place them around your band. You don't want to work them too tight. You don't want to have too many right next to each other. Just using your best judgment by making band up hats. You want to evenly place these stitches, and when we get to the end, I will meet you there. I sped this part up so you guys didn't have to sit here and watch me single crochet slowly all the way around this band because like I said, I am still super slow crocheting on camera. So I'm just going to continually work my single crochet stitches around this band, and when we meet back, we'll be ready to move on. As you guys can see here, we normally have a seam in the back of our hat. But for this hat, we will be moving the seam over to the side. So we are going to just move it over here. I'm doing this just for visual tutorial. So there is our last stitch. From that last stitch, you will now count back 12 stitches because that is where we're going to put our stitch marker. So that's my last stitch right there. And now I'm going to count back 12 stitches. So if you're ready to do that, 1, 2, we're going to keep counting until you have 12 stitches back from your last stitch, and that's where you want to place your stitch marker. So right there, grab your stitch marker or whatever you have laying around, paper clip, piece of yarn, anything will work. You just need it for this next round. So I'm going to place my stitch marker there, and that marks where we will be starting the braid. Okay, for round 2, as you can see, we have our seam on the side, we have our stitch marker placed. We are now going to chain 1, work 1 half double crochet in each stitch all the way around until our last 12 stitches where we have that marked, and we will be working double crochets in those stitches. So let's get to work. I am going to chain 1 and half double crochet in each stitch all the way around until we reach our last 12 stitches. And again, I'm going to speed this part up so you guys don't have to watch me do all these half double crochets in real time. For this hat, our stitch count will remain the same for the entire hat pattern. It's working up in a tube kind of fashion, so your stitch count will remain the same. So I am getting back to work, working my half double crochets until I reach my stitch marker. So keep working, and when we meet our stitch marker, I will join you back there. Right, as you can see, I'm getting closer to my stitch marker, so I'm working my last half double crochets all the way around until I reach my stitch marker. And now that I'm here, I am going to remove my stitch marker and work 1 double crochet in my last 12 stitches all the way across and slip stitch to my first stitch. So you can remove your little stitch marker, you can put it aside because I don't think we will need it any longer. So with that moved off to the side, I am now just going to double crochet in each stitch all the way across. 1, sorry, I'm still not used to crocheting on camera. 2, 3, 4, 5, and that stitch is a little tight. Have to take it off camera to get better grip of it. Sorry about that. All right, there we go. So you are just working 1 double crochet in each stitch across for your last 12 stitches. There we go. All right. And now we are going to slip stitch to our first stitch, and that will complete round 2. And as you can see here, I still kind of place my hat like this. Even though we know the seam is on the side, it's okay. We know our seam is on the side now, so however you feel most comfortable working is fine. Okay, so now we're at round 3. We're going to be doing almost the same thing that we did in round 2, but we're working camel stitches. So with your crochet hook, to start round 3, we are going to chain 1, and we're going to be working a half double crochet in that third loop. So as you can see, there's my half double crochet. It pushes those 2 loops forward. So right there, that's where we're going to be working at in all those stitches until we reach our last 12 stitches. And that's when the fun begins. We will start to make the braid. So I'm just going to be working my camel stitches all the way around. And again, I did fast forward this part because I am slow as a snail on camera crocheting. So take your time, work in that third loop, working your half double crochets. You can see I am working my last half double crochet camel stitches until I reach my last 12 stitches, which are right here. Now for this part, we are going to skip the first 4 double crochets. So looking at your last 12 stitches, you're going to count 4 stitches over. So I'm a little slow doing this. I just want to make sure we're all on the same page. So I've worked all of my camel stitches all the way around into my last 12 stitches. Now, working in our last 12 stitches, you will skip your first 4. So looking at it, I'm eyeballing it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now in that next stitch, we are going to front post quadruple crochet. So yarn over 3 times. And now you're going to insert your hook in that next stitch. So we skipped 4 stitches. So with my yarn ready, I'm going to insert my hook, pull up a loop, pull through 2 loops, pull through 2 loops, pull through 2 loops, pull through 2 loops. And you've made your first front post quadruple crochet. If you see that big loop, don't worry about it. That's okay. By working front post stitches, we will camouflage it. So you're going to work 4 front post quadruple crochets in those 4 stitches. So there's my second one. There's my third one. And here is my fourth one I'm going to make. So now you have skipped 4 stitches and you've made 4 front post quadruple crochets. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go back and work 4 front post quadruple crochets in those first 4 stitches we just skipped. So instead of working over the top, we are going to work behind those posts we just made. So you're going to pull your work forward to go back into those stitches, as you can see right here. So there's those stitches. We are going to pull our work forward to go back. It is a little tricky. This is one of 2 tricky parts of this pattern. So I pull my work forward and then I go back and I count, and I like to pinch. I'll use my other hand to pinch that post to make sure I'm going in the right spot. So there's my first one. And as you can see, it looks a little messy, but don't worry, you guys. By the stitches we make, it will all straighten out and it will look good. So there's number 2. And I'm using my left hand to pinch those posts that we had skipped so I know where I'm going. There's number 3, and there's number 4. And you're looking at that and thinking, oh my goodness, this is a mess. We will straighten it out. You will have to use your hands to kind of flatten everything out and straighten it out. Now in your last 4 stitches, you're just going to work 4 front post double crochets in those last 4 stitches. So easy peasy. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And now you will slip stitch to your first stitch. So there's my camel stitch. I like to go under and insert it in those front 2 loops right there. And now we have slip stitch to our first stitch. And this is what your hat should look like so far. It does look a little messy right there, but don't worry, our next round will help straighten everything out and make it look pretty. To start row 4, we are going to chain 1, and like before, we are going to work a camel stitch in each stitch all the way around until our last 12 stitches. So very easy. We are going to be working a half double crochet in the 3rd loop, the camel stitch, all the way around our hat until we reach those last 12 stitches. So I'm just going to be doing that, and I will probably speed this part up so you guys don't have to watch me work all the way around. So keep working, and I'm going to speed this up, and when we meet back, we'll be at our last 12 stitches. All right, I am reaching my last few camel stitches until I reach my last 12 stitches. And now this is the easy part. We are just going to work a front post double crochet in each stitch across in our last 12 stitches. So working right in line. So we are going to get our yarn and see that big loop that we made? Don't worry about it because we're going to camouflage it with a front post double crochet. So in your last 12 stitches, you're just working straight across. So 1, 2, 3, and I had to straighten that out. You will have to straighten this part out with your hands. And now I'm going to work a front post double crochet. It's back behind there, but when I straighten everything out, you see how it's in line. So in your last 12 stitches, you're just working a front post double crochet all the way across. So there's 1, well actually it's 5, 6, 7, 8, and now we're just working a front post double crochet in those last 4 stitches. 9, 10, 11, and 12. And that is it. This row 4 repeat is very easy. And now you're going to slip stitch to your first stitch and you're all done. So this is what your hat should look like so far. Let me get it better in camera. All right, as you can see, we are ready to start round 5. We are going to chain 1 and camel stitch all the way around until our last 12 stitches. So I chained 1 and now I'm going to work my camel stitches. I'm going to speed this part up. So just take your time and work your camel stitches in each stitch all the way around until you reach your last 12 stitches. So here I go, just working away. All right, and now I am at my last 12 stitches, just about. So now with my work laying down, I'm going to take a look at it. So now what we're going to do for round 5 is we are going to work a front post double crochet in these first 4 stitches. Then we are going to skip 4 stitches, work 4 quadruple front post stitches, then go back and work 4. So almost like the same thing as round 3, we're just changing it up a little bit. So you're going to work 4 front post double crochets, 1, 2, 3, and there's my 4th one. My yarn got a little caught up, that's okay. Now for this next part, we are going to skip 4 stitches, 4 posts, and we're going to work in the next 4 posts. So yarn over, you're going to work 4 front post quadruple crochets, So we skipped 4 and now we're working 4 front post. And there's my last one, but it's not the last one for the round. That is the 4th stitch. So now, instead of working behind, we're actually going to work in front of those posts that we just made. So I'm going to straighten everything out. We're going to go back to those 4 stitches that we skipped. So I'm going to yarn over, and now using my other hand, I'm going to work in front of those posts that we had just made. So this is different from round 3. Instead of going back behind, we're working in front. So you don't need to pull your work forward. You're just going to work on top of your work, if that makes sense. So there's that one. And like I said, we may have a big loop there, but that's okay. Since we're working front post stitches, it will all be camouflaged. So there's 2. I'm using my left hand to pinch those posts that I had previously skipped so I know where I'm working. There's number 3. And then there's number 4. And now you're going to slip stitch to your first stitch. All right, you guys, now we're ready to start round 6, which is great because it's a repeat of round 4. You're going to camel stitch all the way around until your last 12 stitches, and then you're just going to work a front post double crochet across in all those stitches we had just made. So it's basically just a repeat of round 4. So here I am. I'm just going to work my camel stitches all the way around like I did before. So I'll probably speed up this part again, and I will meet you when we're doing our front post double crochets. Okay, and now we are reaching our last 12 stitches. So like a repeat in round 4, we are just going to work a front post double crochet in each stitch across and slip stitch to our first stitch. So you may have to straighten out your work a little bit, but don't worry about those big loops. Like I said, we will camouflage them with these front post stitches. So now I'm just working a front post double crochet in each stitch across. There's number 3. Here's number 4. And now I'm going to straighten my stitches out. There's number 5. Number 6. Number 7. And straightening these out, you may have to pull on your work a little bit. There's number 8. And now here's our last 4 stitches that we're going to work our front post double crochets. Number 9, 10, 11, and 12. And now you will slip stitch to your first stitch. I'm working off of a half skein, so that's why I've already ran out of yarn, but I will fix that here shortly. So I apologize for that little yarn barf I had going on. Slip stitch to your first stitch. All right. Okay, so I'm going to fix that little yarn barf I had going on. And this is what your hat would look like now. And once you've done this, you've got the entire pattern, because now we're just going to be working repeats. So let's keep on working. For round 7, we're going to be doing the same thing. We're going to skip those stitches. We're going to work 4 front post quadruple crochets, go back and do 4 front post quadruple crochets, and then 4 front post double crochets. So I'm going to chain 1 and work my camel stitches all the way around until my last 12 stitches. So when I get there, I will meet you back. And as you can see, I was working off of a half skein, so that's why I had to rejoin my yarn. Otherwise, you should be fine. So I'm just going to camouflage my little join right there so nobody will be able to see it on the inside of the hat. So just work your camel stitches all the way around until your last 12 stitches, and I will meet you there. I've made all of my camel stitches, and this is a repeat of round 3. We are going to skip 4 stitches, work 4 front post quadruple crochets, so there's 1, there's 2, I'm going to do number 3, and number 4, and now I'm going to go back and work 4 front post quadruple crochets in those 4 stitches we just skipped, and I'm going to pull my work forward and work those 4 stitches. So using my left hand, I pinched that post, and now I'm going to work 4 front post quadruple crochets in those stitches we had just skipped. And using my left hand, I will go down and I will pinch those stitches so I know where to place my front post quadruple crochet. So there's number, oops, had to let go. So we skipped 4, now we're going back and doing 4 front post quadruple crochets in those stitches we had just skipped. So this is a repeat of round 3. 2, 3, and 4. And now I'm going to work a front post double crochet in those last 4 stitches. One, 2, 3, and 4. And now I'm going to slip stitch to my first stitch. Okay, for round 8, we are doing the same thing we did previously. We are going to camel stitch all the way around until our last 12 stitches, and then we will just work 1 front post double crochet in each stitch all the way across. So I'm going to work these, and when I meet you back, we will be at those last 12 stitches. Okay, and as you can see, we're at our last 12 stitches, so you're just going to work one front post double crochet in each stitch across. So it is a repeat of round 4. So I am just working my front post double crochets in each stitch across. 4. Now I got to pull those posts to get a better grip of them. And this is the easiest part. You're just working straight across, front post double crochets. There's number 8, number 9, 10, 11, and 12. And now you will slip stitch to your first stitch. Okay, you guys, now looking at our work, we are ready to start round 9, which is a repeat of round 5. So, with your crochet hook, we are going to chain 1 and camel stitch all the way around until our last 12 stitches. So, I'm going to chain 1, and now I'm going to work my camel stitches. And once again, I will probably speed this part up so you don't have to sit here and watch me work all of these camel stitches all the way around. And as you can see there, that's where I joined my yarn. I'm going to have to go back and hide that piece like so. It's an easy fix, but you guys should be fine. I was not paying attention when I was crocheting on camera. Not a big deal. That's an easy fix. Okay, so as you guys can see, I'm working my last camel stitch, and now we are going to repeat round 5. So just like in round 5, we are going to work 4 front post double crochets in the next 4 stitches. Then we will skip 4 stitches and work 4 quadruple front post crochets there. Then we'll go back and work our 4 front post quadruple crochets there and slip stitch to our first stitch. So just like in round 5, I'm going to work 4 front post double crochets, 2, 3, and 4. Get some yarn slack going. And now I'm going to work 4 front post quadruple crochets after I skip 4 stitches. So I skip 4 stitches, a hair, 2, 3, 3 and 4. And just like we did before, we are actually going to work in front. So I'm going to pinch those stitches. I'm going to insert my hook and work my 4 quadruple front post crochet stitches. So there's 1, there's 2, there's number 3, and number 4. And now I'm going to slip stitch to my first stitch. Okay, you guys, so now for this row, we are going to do the same thing as we did in round 6. We are going to work 1 camel stitch in each stitch all the way around until our last 12 stitches, and that's where we will do front post double crochets in our last 12 stitches. So I'm going to be working my camel stitches all the way around, and when we come back, we'll be ready to do the front post double crochets in our last 12 stitches. As you can see, I did all my camel stitches, and now we are just working 1 front post double crochet in our last 12 stitches all the way across. So just like so, and like before. Sometimes my yarn gets messed up. That's okay. So you're just working your front post double crochets. And as you make your braid, you may have to straighten things out, like I said before. Kind of move your stitches with your hands to flatten everything out. You want it to go straight across. So we're not skipping anything, we're just working straight across. And as you can see, I'm moving my stitch so I can make sure I can get that front post double crochet in there. And then now I'm doing my last 4 front post double crochets. Okay, and now I'm doing my last 1 front post double crochet, and now I'm going to slip stitch to my first stitch. And it is that easy, you guys. And here is our beautiful hat that we are working on. Now for me, I'm going to repeat rounds 3 through 6 one more time, and when we come back, I will show you the closing. Okay, you guys, as you can see here, I repeated rounds 3 through 6 one more time. Now we're going to do the final round before the closing. For this round, you will chain 1, and then you will work 1 camel stitch in each stitch all the way around until your last 12 stitches. So, like before, we are just working our half double crochets in the 3rd loop of each stitch. So working a camel stitch in each stitch all the way around until our last 12 stitches. So instead of having you guys sit here and watch me do this one more time, I will pause the video, and when we come back, I'll be at the last 12 stitches. As you guys can see, I worked my camel stitches all the way around, and now in your last 12 stitches, all you are going to do is work a slip stitch in each stitch all the way across. So you're going to work 12 slip stitches, then slip stitch to your very last stitch. So here I am just working my slip stitches. So just work your slip stitches all the way across. Now you're going to slip stitch to your first stitch, and now leaving a very long yarn tail, we are going to cut our yarn so we have a nice long tail to work with when we sew up our hat. Okay, so now I'm going to make a knot, and if you want to make a slouch hat, you want to go back, do your repeating rounds, and then come and do this final round. So this is what an adult size fitted hat looks like, and now I'm going to show you how to sew. Using your yarn needle, you're going to thread it, and now we are just going to work back and forth, working through every single stitch all the way around. So go in and out. So now I'm going down. Now I'll work back up. And you're just going to do this all the way around your hat. And I will probably speed this up so you guys don't have to sit here and watch me do all of this. So if you want to pause the video here and go ahead and work your yarn needle, working it back and forth through every single stitch all the way around. Okay, I've worked all the way around. Now I'm back at my first stitch, and now you're just going to pull it really, really tight, and it's going to cinch your hat closed. Now, it won't cinch it completely. A lot of times you will have a hole like so. So now all we are going to do is work back and forth and to sew up this hole. There's no rhyme or reason. You just want to work back and forth. I kind of bunch it up like so, and now I'm just inserting my yarn needle, and I'm just going to sew up the hole completely. So I just kind of squish it all together at the top like so. And be careful because sometimes your yarn will get tangled, but you're just going to sew the hole up completely. And it's that easy to close up the hat. All right, so here I am. I'm still just making sure that hole is completely shut. That is my main thing. I just work back and forth, making sure the hole is completely shut. And my yarn needle came out. It actually did it twice when I was doing this, but that's okay. All you have to do is rethread it. And now I'm a little out of frame, I apologize, but I'm still just making sure there is no hole at the very top. So I'm just pulling and pulling, and my yarn needle came out again. It's a lot harder to crochet and sew on camera than I ever thought it would be, but that's okay. So rethreaded, I'm going to close it one more time, and then I'm going to take my yarn needle and I'm going to make a knot at the top. And next, what I'm going to do is insert my yarn needle through the very center and make it go down into the hat. So like so. And then with your hat laying down, you're going to pull that yarn needle. You can actually take it off because we don't need it anymore. And now I like to double knot my hats here as well to make sure they're just super secure and not going to come loose. So there's one. And it's easier if I do this on my lap instead of leaning over the table trying to do this. But there we go. And now with my scissors, I'm just going to cut that excess yarn. I can go back in and weave it in later. And this is an adult size fitted hat. It's a little tricky to do a flat lay with this adult size fitted beanie, but I'm going to go ahead and lay this one out, and then I'm going to show you the adult size slouch version. I really love the way it looked and it turned out as well. Alright you guys, I have two imposter beanies side by side just to give you an idea what the two different styles look like. I have the imposter fitted and the imposter slouch. These hats are so simple to make, you just repeat rounds 3 through 6 for your desired length. If you haven't already, definitely stop by my blog at www.gethookedupcrochet.com. I have other free patterns there and I will be releasing more videos that go along with those free patterns. If you're on Instagram, I'm at hookedupcrochet. I would love to see your work. Tag me in it or use the hashtag imposterbeanie. I cannot wait to see all the beautiful beanies that you make. I really hope you enjoyed this pattern, and if you enjoyed this video, please give this video a like and subscribe to my channel. Thank you guys so much for watching and have a great day.